Yo. I think people can hear me. Welcome in. It's another edition of Cash Day with Chris, presented by the Forever Basketball Podcast Network. I appreciate you guys for being here with me this morning. We got some NBA to talk about, man, as always. We do have some NBA to talk about. So, first of all, let's start with just a quick recap. Yesterday, I told you guys about the over that I really liked in the Kings and Miami Heat game, the over 223. And that one started off a little slow, but it did end up cashing yesterday. So if you tell that one, congrats to you. And then we had the Warriors who were taken down by the Charlotte Hornets. That was an interesting game. So interesting stat is that the Charlotte Hornets the Charlotte Hornets are 4-0 at home against Golden State in the last 4 years. That's I think what the stat is. Golden State just struggles. They come home and Steph comes home and Charlotte gets the best of them pretty much every single time. It was a crazy game. I watched most of it. Charlotte can score the ball, man. I think a lot of teams are overlooking Charlotte just because they don't have LaMelo and Terry Rozier. But PJ Washington had 31 points yesterday. We know Kelly Oubre can light it up. And I know a lot of people probably, isn't watching him, but Dennis Smith Jr. is a solid point guard. I don't even think he had a job coming into the season, but this dude is solid. He's looked really, really good this year playing backup point guard for Charlotte. And of course, they have other guys that can score the ball on their team as well. Miami Sacramento, I talked about that game a little bit. The total went to 231, so that overcashed in that one. Sacramento got their first win of the season. Miami is not looking great, but it was a bad spot for them, like I talked about. Third road game in 4 nights, all on the West Coast, and eventually it was going to catch up with them. Tyler Herro did go off in the game. I think he had 30. Moving along, we saw the Brooklyn Nets look like the Brooklyn Nets, man. They are not looking good at all. They lost that game to the Pacers, giving up 125 points. Back-to-back wins for the Pacers. Ben Mathurin I think he had his first 30-point game last night. KD looked not the greatest. Their offense is just going through something right now, and I think the offense is impacting the defense. Although they're not the best defensive team, Kyrie gets cooked. Even though he had a good offensive game, he can't guard anybody. Not making right decisions on defense. And then they got some distractions too with the whole Kyrie Twitter thing, the whole anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's something else. But moving along, we saw the Sixers pick up their second win. They beat Toronto on Friday night, and then beat Chicago last night. Joel Embiid rested on the first night, of course, but played last night, and they were able to go to Chicago and get a 5-point win, 114-109. I didn't watch too much of that game, but I was flipping back and forth. Then we also saw the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks they're forced to be reckoned with. Trae Young went off last night. Still wasn't enough. They lost that game 123-115. Atlanta's defense is going to have to pick up just a tad bit, but they're always going to struggle with teams that have so much length and athleticism. I know that they, themselves have Clint Capella and John Collins, but man, Giannis dunked on John Collins last night, made him look like a point guard. It was crazy. Milwaukee, they have the trees of the trees. It'll be them and Cleveland as far as the biggest teams in the Eastern Conference. At least they have trees with Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and Giannis. And then last but not least, I did watch the end of this game, fourth quarter, Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. Utah hit some big shots last night. Memphis was, of course, shorthanded without Ja Morant, but they were actually winning the game. Desmond Bane had a really good game. He played really, really well. Tyus Jones played really, really well in the starting point guard position. I know he crushed his player props if you took him, but Utah hit big shot after big shot, man. Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Kelly Olynyk had a really good game last night. So shout out to the Utah Jazz, man. They came through. But let's look a little bit at today. I haven't really fully broken down the whole card, but I did want to share with you guys what I had. I told you guys every single day, 7 o'clock a.m. Well, during the weekdays, 7 o'clock a.m. I'm gonna be doing the show, and then on the weekends, I'm gonna try to do the show at 9 a.m. So appreciate you guys for tapping in with me. Y'all drop y'all plays that y'all like it in the chat too, man. Let me see what y'all on before I get into the slate for today. So also, yeah, if y'all watching on YouTube, man, hit the like button for me. If you're watching on Twitter, you can jump on YouTube and and share your plays too if you want to. But let's get into today's card. Let me see what y'all on real quick. I had a mean round robin yesterday. Upset Saturday. Woohoo! Had Thunder, Hornets, and Pacers winning. Yeah, I posted the trend yesterday when we know that Brooklyn doesn't play well at home. That dates all the way back to last year, but going back going back to last year, I posted this trend last night. The Brooklyn Nets as a favorite at home of 9.5 points or more. It might have been 9 points. We're 1-7 straight up, 6-2 to the over. So Brooklyn doesn't cover big spreads. They typically win those games by about 7 points. And the Pacers, it looked like a letdown spot, back-to-back game. They played in DC the night before. You would think that Brooklyn would wanted to come in and get a big win yesterday, but they can't. And I know that they had a players-only meeting or something like that. I saw Ben Simmons said yesterday, but can't look to back this Brooklyn team. Not quite yet. Maybe you don't look to fade them in the next game, but you can't quite look to back them yet. What up, Tay? LJ, what's going on, brother? I appreciate you being here. Clock is ticking for Steve Nash's job. That's a fact. You can kind of tell KD they want somebody else to be in there coaching. Steve Nash ain't it. He not the guy. He is not the guy. What up, DJ? Appreciate you being here, bro. All right, let's talk about these games for the day, man. We got a nice little slate. I think it's about 7 games for the day. Let's see what we got. We have the first game up. Let's go to LA. The Pelicans are coming in here to take on the Los Angeles Clippers today. You get a total that the Pelicans are favored by 2.5. You get a total at 224.5. And this is a difficult game to cap. It's an extremely difficult game to cap just because you don't know exactly what's going to happen with the Pelicans. They are without. Well, so Ingram didn't travel on this road trip that the Pelicans are on. The Pelicans are coming off the loss against the Phoenix Suns on Friday night, 124-111, I think. So you get a Pelicans team that's coming in here. They'll be shorthanded even if Herb Jones and Zion do play, and they're both listed as questionable. So if you got an inkling of whether or not you think that they play or they don't play, then maybe that's enough for you to take a side or figure out what you want to do with props. But I'm pretty sure they're probably not even out because I think they truly are. Both of those guys are questionable. Kawhi Leonard's also going to be out for the Clippers, and Robert Covington is going to be out. He got put in health and safety protocol late last night, so saw that earlier too. And this is an interesting game from the revenge angle too, because if you guys remember, the Clippers actually lost last year in the play-in game to the Pelicans. Now, of course, the teams look different, but they did have PG in that game. I want to say they had PG in that game. The Pelicans were without Zion, of course. Brandon Ingram had 30 points in that game, and he's ruled out for this game. So from a revenge angle, you kind of want to hop on the Clippers. It's a short spread too. But if the Pelicans get Zion in and get Herb Jones in, I'm pretty sure they're going to be looking for a win, especially after coming off the loss yesterday on Friday against the Phoenix Suns. So it makes it a really difficult game to cap. Also, you don't necessarily want to buy. I don't feel like the Clippers are a buy-on team right now just because they're trying to figure out the load management and all the injury stuff. So that makes it a little difficult. Also, looking through the stats, the Clippers are also 0-4 ATS since their first win of the season. So they're 1-4 ATS. They beat the Lakers and covered by 2 points, barely. In that game where Robert Covington got fouled and hit the free throws, and I was actually on the Clippers that game, so thank God for Robert Covington in that one. But they failed to cover a spread since then. They failed to cover 4 spreads, and they've been drastic like non-covers too. I think so. One of them was 19.5 points they failed to cover by, and the other 2 I want to say were 15.5 points. So four games they failed to cover since beating the Lakers and covering that spread. They failed to cover those spreads by 50.5 points. You don't, necessarily want to take the Pelicans in this spot because of the revenge angle, but it's hard to back this Clipper team right now. Y'all got thoughts on this Clipper and Pelican game? If y'all do, let me know what y'all thinking, man. 6 a.m. I'm up. What up, Ski? What up, brother? Hey, Ski, I told you yesterday too, on the way back from DC to Charlottesville, and I saw your post. Y'all follow Ski, man. Follow Ski Prophet on Twitter. He also got a YouTube. That's where he posted the play yesterday. Jalen Smith over 8.5 rebounds. I think Ski louted him up to like 11 or 12, and he cashed. Shout out to Ski. I told you on that, Ski. Appreciate you, my brother. Paul George plays. Take his steal props. Yeah, they've been cashing, LJ. He has 2 steals, 3 out of 4 games so far. Pelicans allow most steals in the NBA. Damn, that's a sharp look, LJ. Okay. I like that look. I'm going to write that down. Okay. Appreciate you sharing that, LJ, for sure, because I hadn't looked at this game from a prop perspective. I think PG will play in this one, too. I know LA Times had an article that came out yesterday from Coach Ty Lue, and he was saying that, the sky isn't falling just because they've lost a couple games, lost back-to-back games, and the sharp money was on the Clippers to bounce back in that spot against the Thunder, because they went to OKC and lost back-to-back games, which was crazy, especially after not covering the first quarter. They won the second quarter by, I think, like 15 or 18 and got the lead and covered the second quarter, but then they ended up losing the full game. So I don't know what to do with this Clippers team right now. I don't think I really want to touch them. I also saw reports that John Wall he probably going to play in this game, but I think the Clippers have the Rockets on deck for tomorrow. And if John Wall does play today, he probably won't play tomorrow against the Rockets because they're still trying to, ease him back into the swing of things as well. So, yeah, that's what I got in this game, man. I do think that you have to wait until you find out the news, of course, on Herb Jones and Zion Williamson. And I expect the Pelicans to be kind of, cautious with Zion and cautious with Herb, too, just because, for one, we know the extensive injury history for Zion. So they're not going to rush him back, especially in a meaningless game in October. And the same thing for her, right? Like, you don't want to, he's an integral part, especially defensively, to that team, and you don't want to bring him back to cause any injury. So I expect them to be super precautious, with these guys. Ski said Jared Allen rebounds over 9.5 minus 148 should be minus 200 at least. Didn't take double because it wasn't available when I bet. Jared Allen, we'll get there, Ski. We'll get there. I like the look. Jared Allen been crushing the boards too. So let's move along though. And these player props, I see where Ski going. Ski going to these player props because it's been hard to cap these games, man, especially early. We need a little more data, but the player props been cashing. So let's move on to the next game. The next game I wanted to talk to you guys about, and we at the 13-minute mark, so maybe we can get a couple more games in real quick. Let's go to this Wizards and Celtics game, man. So you get a line that opened at, I think it opened at 8.5 is at least what I saw that. Let me just double check. Yeah, so 8.5 in favor of Boston. The total is at 224. This is an interesting one. I don't think the markets are going to agree with me on this one because I'm seeing more and more money come in on the opposite side. But I wanted to, and I just need to check real quick. Maybe I'm missing something. I feel like I'm not though. Let me just check the injury real quick. Injury news, because I didn't see anything about anybody, not being in this one. And like I said, maybe I'm tripping. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe some sharp money coming from somewhere. But let's talk about the game. All right, so you get a Wizards team that's coming in here. First game of a back-to-back situation for them. They host Philly tomorrow, so it'll be a road home back-to-back. They're coming off the 10-point loss in overtime to the Pacers. They gave up 127 points to this Indiana Pacers team. Lost that game 127-117. You get the Celtics, a Celtics team that's coming off 1 day's rest and a loss against Cleveland. The Celtics have also lost 2 games in a row, and you see the reports from Coach Mazzulla saying, they got to find a way. They got to get back to winning basketball and learn how to win again. They gave up 132 points. Granted, it went to overtime, but the Celtics, they gave up 132 points in that game. They play Cleveland again. I think that game is on Wednesday in Cleveland this time. So, of course, the first game was in Boston. Nice measuring stick. And I talked about taking Cleveland plus the points. I think, unless Cleveland's in a real bad travel spot, I almost feel like you have to take Cleveland plus the points, especially if they get more than 5 in pretty much every situation, right? Unless it's a real bad road travel spot. But they have the defense that's always going to be able to keep them in the game with the trees down low. And we know what Donovan Mitchell's capable of. We know what some of those other guys on this team is capable as well, man. Karis LeVert looked really, really good as well. Ski said Wizards play tomorrow too. Yeah, the Wizards do play tomorrow too. I think I put that in here. Yeah, they play Philly. They play Philly tomorrow. Yeah, I talked about that one. So real quick, what I'm looking at in this one. So hold on. So also, let me not get too far ahead of myself. So Brogdon is questionable with a back injury. He might not play. Grant Williams is coming back. He was suspended for 1 game for contact with a referee and then some inappropriate language. I think something he said to the referee. I didn't really see it, but I was reading about it. So you do get Grant Williams back, but Brogdon is actually questionable with a back injury. We know how significant, for one, your back is, and the history with Brogdon and his back dating back to last year. So with him being questionable, I kind of lean towards Brogdon not playing. I mean, he could play, and I don't think it's going to necessarily affect the play, but I was looking at 2 things in this game. First of all, the total, right? So the total in this one, like I said, I got it up on the screen, opened at 224, and money's coming in on the under. When I caught this game earlier this morning, it was actually sitting at 222 and a half. And this was like an hour ago. I see the total all the way down to 221 on circa 221 and a half. Westgate got a 220. So it's a lot of money coming in on under. I'm not 100% sure why, because Washington, while they have struggled to score the ball at times, like you get a Boston team that really just wants to track meet. They just want to run. And we've talked about that before. When you play the Celtics, you want to take them over pretty much every single time. And I want to just check something real quick before I get this to you guys. Let's look at, I want to look at this season and team equals the Celtics. So the Celtics are 3-2 to the over this year, with an average total sitting at 219 and a half. One of the things that I looked at, one of the things that I ran a query for this morning looking at this game was how the Celtics did after a loss and without Robert Williams, because we know how much of an impact he makes on the defensive end. So since last season, the Celtics are 6-3 to the over in games without Robert Williams when the total was set at 222 or 222 and a half or higher, including 2 of those games that went over to the Wizards. So just, historically, if you look at these 2 teams playing against each other, I don't, and I think there's an angle towards like, and I didn't mention this, but of course, there's a Missouri, St. Louis, revenge, like edge angle between Tatum and Bradley Beal. They go back and forth. I remember Tatum gave the Wizards 52 last year. And they always talk about their, rivalry, their hometown rivalry between the 2 teams as well. So that's one thing you could look at. But I think I see points in this game. I know that the total is dropping, and I don't necessarily like. Of course, I'm gonna check it just to make sure, but I don't play the games based on what I'm seeing. What I will say is, I hope the total continues to drop because I haven't put the play in yet, and I'm probably gonna take the over. So I'll give you guys that stat again, and then I got one more stat for you guys. So since last season, the Celtics are 6-3 to the over in games without Robert Williams when the total was set at 222 and a half or higher, including 2 games that went over against the Wizards when these teams played last year. Also, the Celtics they finished 3-0 to the over in games last season, coming off a loss where the total was set at 223 or higher without Robert Williams, right? So even when they lose games, we think the Celtics typically bounce back with offense. They do, but they still don't play any defense either. I think the Wizards can score in this game. I don't see a reason why Porzingis can't get his numbers, Bradley Beal, especially coming off a really bad game. I know reports came out from Bradley Beal saying that, they're asking about the defense, and he was saying that if we play defense like that in Boston, we'll lose by 50. So, of course, they're going to try to bring the defensive intensity, but guys like Jaylen Brown, guys like Jason Tatum going to get whatever they want, and I think that they still continue to score. Boston scored 75 points in the first half against a Cavaliers team that's much better defensively than this Washington Wizards defense. Let's see what else I got in the chat. Hit the like button for this early morning NBA angles Chris is giving us. Appreciate that, Dylan. LJ said Boston first quarter should be a look. 4-1 so far. LJ, that's funny you mentioned that because I was actually looking at Boston first quarter too. And one of the things that I queried was after a loss without Robert Williams, they actually don't score. They actually get outscored in the first quarter, 27-26, over like an 8-game sample size. So I was looking at taking Boston first quarter too. And I mean, it still could be a play. I'm not saying, to take it out. What I am saying is that the numbers don't actually support it. That was actually one of my first looks, was Boston first quarter. But that's why I kind of omitted it, because they give up points in the first quarter. Like teams that struggle to play defense, it might be, it might be a contrarian look, but you kind of low key, like you can't rely on them to play defense just because they lost the previous game. I was actually looking at Brooklyn first quarter yesterday, thinking that they would come out and, be able to not even limit the Pacers, just be able to outscore them, because the Pacers don't play any defense. And it was a tie game at the end of the first quarter. So you gotta, and I think Boston the same way. Boston don't play a lot of defense. They're trying to run up and down the court and outscore you. And for that reason, I was looking at player props. Jaylen Brown is somebody that I continue to look at. His point prop is actually one that I locked in. So I'm gonna give this to you guys officially. Tail it if you want, you don't have to. But I took Jaylen Brown points over 23.5. I got it at a -125, and I actually played it on DraftKings earlier this morning. I went ahead and put that in because I feel like the odds going to continue to get worse. So Jaylen Brown's averaging 25.5 points, 25.6 to be exact. He's shooting the ball almost 20 times per game. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for volume, right? 20 times a game, shooting 48% from the field. And he's getting to the free throw line average 5 times a game as well. I talked about Brogdon not playing. I think it's another angle towards getting Jaylen Brown his points again. Boston has also, lost 2 games in a row. So I like Jaylen Brown to be aggressive, try to pick it up. And he'll pick it up by scoring the ball. Of course, he's a good defender as well. But, I like him to be able to score in this game. We know that, it's going to be a fast pace. The Celtics have already said they want to get out and run when Jaylen Brown is playing. I'm sorry, when Robert Williams isn't playing to start the season. And Jaylen Brown's also, he's cleared 24 points in 3 to 5 games so far. Setback game against the Bulls, but I think that was the third road game. And he didn't clear another game. But the dude is shooting, like I said, close to 50%. And when he goes over, he's going really far over. Like, the first game of the season, I think they had him set at 23.5 or 22.5. And they played against Philly, and he had 35. So he's crushing the over when he does go over. And I like him. And I was looking at Jason Tatum as well. Jason Tatum is also shooting the ball 20 times per game, but his point prop is set at 27.5. And we know Tatum could get hot at any time. I went with Jaylen Brown just because I feel like, volume-wise, they're both shooting the same amount. And if Jaylen Brown shoots the ball 20 times, I have no doubt that I think he scores over 23.5 points. Also, DeLon Wright is injured. He's going to be out for about a month, I think I was reading. And he's one of the better primary defenders. I know he comes off the bench, but he plays, starter minutes, especially in games where opposing teams have really good guards and they need him to kind of lock down. So I think Jaylen Brown goes over his 23.5 points. I like that in the -125. And I'm also going to be looking to play the total over the 222.5 is what I saw it setting at. But now you could actually get the total at which bodes well for me. This is a 6 p.m. Eastern start time. You can get the total at 220, 221 at some places because money's still continuing to come in on the under, which I don't understand at all. I didn't see anybody on the injury report. So that's the way I'd be looking in this game. And I'm already at the 25-minute mark, man. I gotta do something to try to get more games in because I always want to try to keep the podcast to 25 minutes. So I know I only got through 2 games. The Knicks also play against the Cavs. I'll do a spaces later. The Knicks also play against the Cavs. I think that's going to be an interesting game because the Knicks are actually ranked second in points scored in the paint. And we know that the Cleveland Cavaliers don't give up a lot of points in the paint with Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley, and all the other big bodies that they have. So that's going to be an interesting game. Cavs are only favored by 4.5 in that spot. I see it down to 3.5 for some places. So we got to talk about that one too. Also, Golden State and Detroit. Golden State exerted a lot of energy last night. Their starters played a big, heavy minutes in that overtime loss against Charlotte. Detroit is catching. They were catching 8.5 points. Now it's down to 7. So some money coming in on Detroit to kind of cover. I could not take Detroit to cover, but it's Sunday, and Sunday presents a lot of weird stuff. And Golden State they're probably resting those guys. I know that Steve Kerr said that Steph said he would like to play. But heavy minutes for Draymond, Clay, and Steph as they tried to pull out that win last night, but couldn't in Charlotte. So it might result in another loss tonight, especially if those. We know Steve Kerr is also, he understands this is chess, not checkers. He's not going to play his starters, and he'll lean on the training staff and those guys to make a call on the health of his guys. So I don't think that they play heavy minutes if they do play in this spot, and Detroit is needing to win, but their defense is terrible. Timberwolves and the Spurs, I'm not touching that game. Feel like they played 100 times already this season. Orlando and Dallas is a good matchup. So yeah, we'll talk about some more of these games, man. My Lakers play again tonight. Of course, this is my first show back, back in VA after watching them lose to the Timberwolves the other day. And then Houston plays Phoenix too, and Phoenix is laying 12. So we definitely got some more games to talk about, but this is all I'm gonna be able to get to on the morning show, man. I appreciate you guys for tapping in with me. Real quick, I do want to go over the officials again. I'm looking at taking I already took Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points. I think it could be a potential ladder spot for Jaylen Brown in this spot too, but I'm official on the 23.5 points over 125. Check your books because you may be able to get a better number than the minus 125, but I looked at it on DraftKings this morning and put that one in already. Also, like I said, favorite total prop, and I know a lot of people don't like totals, but I'll be looking towards the Celtics and the Wizards to go over, and maybe you continue to let it drop, like I said, because now I see it at 220, 221.5. The lower this number goes, the more I like it. I think the Wizards score. I think Boston scores in this one. And that's what I got for you guys based on a couple games that we went over. We got to wait for the Herb Jones and Zion news and the Clippers and Pelicans game, but that's what I got for you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the videos. Doing these every single day. Tomorrow will be back at 7 a.m. Throughout the week, it'll be 7 a.m. Eastern time. Then on the weekends, we're doing 9 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. I haven't done the spaces the last 2 days, the NBA Crispy Captain Show, just because I've been, doing some traveling. But we're back to doing those. We got to figure out we probably do one today at 12 is what I'm thinking. Before football season starts. So for a football game start at 1:00. So if you got some plays you want to share them, tap back in with me about noon Eastern time today. Real quick, let me go over these chat. Watch the football game on right now. Yeah, the London game is on. Mobley blocks. Knicks allows 7.5 blocks on the road. Okay. Keldon Johnson 3-point prop had 11 past 2 games. Okay, LJ got the props. Appreciate the show. Appreciate you for tuning in, Kedar. Yesterday's games were weird too. So many upsets. Charlotte beating Golden State, Thunder beating the Mavs, and more. Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, you got to look for these dogs, man. I know it's not, it's contrarian, but dogs cover. They cover and they win games outright. And Sunday's a weird day too. A weird day, man. I'll see you guys at noon, though. I'll do the show, like I said, at noon. It'll be a quick NBA Spaces before NFL kicks off. Appreciate you guys for tuning in again, man. Like I said, hit the like button for me, subscribe to the videos, and tell a friend, man. This has been another episode of Cashed It with Chris, presented by Forever Basketball Podcast Network. Until I see you guys again at noon, y'all be good, man.